Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Product Manifesto. My name is Ashok Bania, and I'm the VP of Product at Tumblr. I'm going to talk a little bit about the first principle, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. So the first principle is ask why before what. Use data and research to find the opportunity. A lot of times I get asked, what is opportunity, right? To break it down, it's basically a specific problem or a market. Market is basically defined as a group of people with similar common needs and a unique solution to that problem. The solution is so unique and the problem is so severe and interesting that it creates consumer surplus, which means that consumers are going to pay an additional dollar that they haven't paid or spent on this problem in their life, right? And this surplus creates a business opportunity. So that's what we all do, right? So why is it important, this principle? I think in the past, I have noticed a lot of times, a lot of startups, basically 42% of startups actually fail just because of this reason, that the market was not right or the need was not a real need, right? Having said that, human beings are inherently problem solvers. There has been a lot of research on that. We are not problem finders, and problem finders is way hard. I mean, in companies, you would probably notice that a lot of times the CEO takes that responsibility of finding a problem, creating a purpose, creating a mission and vision, right? Or maybe some senior leaders who would ask, like, hey, go and think about this, right? And so we sometimes PMs, especially the ones which are entry level, feels very powerless and at some time disempowered. Like we don't even think about hey, should I even think this problem is a real problem or not? So the crux of this principle is that at every stage you are in, you are responsible. Even if you're just improving a feature, you're responsible to figure out the why you're doing this, because there are 10 other things you can do, right? You have unlimited time and energy and people. So where should you place your bets where it gives the right business outcome and opportunity? To put into practice, it's actually a really big topic. We may probably write about this going forward, but in very short, you need to define the problem space. So what is a good problem? Somebody may ask. And some attributes of a good problem are it should be severe. It should be like really, really a harsh problem. It should be unique, like something that hasn't been solved before, hopefully, or has been solved in not like a really good way. It should be frequent. There are some exceptions to frequency, but the more the frequent, the better, right? It should be causal, like meaning that we should be able to identify the underlying causes of the problem. If we cannot identify the underlying problems, then this probably is not a right problem to solve, or may not find the right solutions for this problem. And of course, scale. Again, scale is debatable. It depends on the type of product, the type of market you are in, right? Other factors, barriers to entry, like how hard it is to solve that problem, right? Does it require a lot of working with government regulations, right? Or even some sort of hardware or secret sauce that's very hard to build. And competitive advantage is basically like your secret sauce, like what you bring to the table to make this solution so unique, right? And then while doing so, you might also want to iterate on the solution space, because if you cannot find a 10x solution, meaning that a solution that's so good compared to what it is right now. When I say what is right now, it means users may have some substitutes or may do some duct tape and glue, kind of like fixing their problems, right? So it should be 10x. Otherwise, then that problem is not like a great problem to solve, right? Of course, leveraging competitive advantage. A personal story. When I was really in my early stage of my career, I was a platform PM, which means that I had to take a lot of incoming requests from different stakeholders, and many of you must be smiling right now because it's very common, right? Where I was unguided, and at that time, I actually heard or listened to a lot of people, senior folks or some projects that sounded really hot and awesome in the company, right? I didn't apply my own rubric about which problems to solve, which feature to build, which use case to work for. That was a mistake. I think no matter how, which stage of career you are in, you need to apply this principle as you go. And I hope this helped you. And I'm very curious to hear back from you all. All right. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shilpa Veer. I'm a product leader at Google, and today I will be discussing the second principle of Product Manifesto, which is to set ambitious goals related to solving user problems and to the broader team mission. Let's get started and first talk about why we need goals in the first place. Of all the good things that goals bring us, the three most important ones are clarity, focus, and transparency. When your team understands what is the common shared objective that they are working towards, it helps them self-organize in a way that helps them achieve that goal faster. It also brings a great focus. Goals help act as a filter against which you can evaluate all the different ideas and only pick the ones that help you get the desired results. And finally, they bring transparency. It helps the team assess whether they are on track for a successful outcome or not. How do we set and measure the goals? If you can only take one line from this whole presentation, just remember this. The goals you take on and set should matter to their end users, to your organization, and to your team. Goals typically cascade from your company's vision and mission. And if your work doesn't align with your company's vision and mission, you should take a step back and question why you're working on that item. They should be focused on increasing the value for your users. If your work or if your company's goals do not increase the value the users are getting from your product, they will at one point stop using your product, and that will defeat the purpose. Goals should also be set at a cadence and re-evaluated to see if they are the right goals. Depending on what stage your company is in, you might have a quarterly all the way to an annual goal setting process. Goals should be SMART, which means they should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And every goal that you set should have a clear KPI identified. Basically, there should be no doubt or misinterpretation possible in the way you set a goal. I also suggest that you set public and aggressive goals. It is okay if you only achieve 60 to 70% of that goal that you set, but setting bigger and bolder goals will help you make bigger and bolder bets. And playing safe will only get you small incremental improvements. And finally, reiterating the same thing again, that your work and your goals should directly or indirectly impact your company's North Star metrics. And if they don't, you should figure out if they are the right things to work on. And just a very quick note on North Star metrics. What are North Star metrics? These are the core metrics, the core top line metrics that all your company's priorities and goals are going to be set around. Because these are the ones that indicate whether your customers are finding value in your products or not. If customers do not respond to your product and these KPIs fall, there is a serious problem. And you have to prioritize which North Star metric to go after first. So the fewer North Star metrics you have, the better it is because you can prioritize your work accordingly. To summarize, goals are important. They help you understand how to win the game you're playing, and KPIs tell you if you're winning the game. So go ahead and put some thought into your goals and KPIs. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marilenika. I am a product leader at Google in San Francisco. On my day job, I build augmented reality experiences, but outside of my day role, I love advocating for product management. So if you're an aspiring product manager, if I can help you in any way, reach out to me. You can follow me on Instagram. This is my name and my last name. Today, though, I am here because I'm part of this fantastic initiative, the Product Manifesto. And I will talk to you about principle number 3, which is crafting a product strategy. The question I get very often is, hey, what is strategy and why does it even matter for my product? Well, the strategy is actually the way that you'll be able to achieve your mission or your goal. It's the pathway, it's the pavement. You cannot have a roadmap that makes sense without a long-term vision. And this is what strategy is. With the strategy, you will help yourself and your team to achieve this mission. Your organization is very likely to have their own strategy and their own KPIs. Your job as a product leader is to make sure that the story you will tell for your product area is aligned with the strategy of the organization. So things need to go hand in hand, and it's your job to make sure to advance your team, the company, your product. Here are some common pitfalls. If you believe that you already have the answers with your product and that you know what you're building, you know where you're going, then things are a bit misleading. You need to take a step back in order to have true long-term impact. If you don't take a step back, who is going to do it? You need to view things from a bird's eye view and pivot if you need to. You need to make sure things are progressing okay. You need to make sure to take your time without getting rushed into building a solution. So rushing towards a solution will add extra overhead in the long term. So there are no shortcuts, just work for it. Okay, step-by-step guide. How do you craft a product strategy? First of all, you need to think about the who and the why. Who are we building things for? And I know you're tired of listening to this, but if we don't know who the user is, then why are we here? Okay, so once you know who you're building things for, you will answer the why. And you will then be able to visualize the long-term vision, which is kind of the hero use case, let's say. What is it that you're trying to solve? What is the status that's going to be perfect in the long term? So long-term vision and story, make sure you know the who and the why. Now, once you know these things, make sure that your story and the why is in line with the company's goals, like I mentioned. If you don't know the company's goals, reach out to your senior leadership and say, hey, can I view your KPIs? Once you can see things a bit more quantified, you'll be able to quantify your story and your mission. And you need to either directly or indirectly affect the KPIs of the organization. So your strategy for your product needs to match the strategy of the organization. You need to make hypotheses and you need to quantify what you're talking about, because you cannot rely on a hunch or a feeling or what the competitors are doing. You need to craft your product strategy, and you are leading this area, so people will look up to you. Make sure you make it. You will then be able to create a roadmap and prioritize the features. There is a whole other section, prioritization, but the TLDR is that you need to stack rank your features based off of user impact. So make sure to always measure, assess, reiterate, take a step back. If things are not progressing the way they should be towards the goal and the mission you have, then you need to pivot. Sometimes it's very difficult for the product manager to just stop everything the team is doing in order to move forward. But if you don't know it, who is? Last but not least, always compare yourself to yourself and your product to your product. You are the leader. Other people may be creating other things, but they have different reasons. They have different strategies. Compare your strategy to your future strategy and make sure you're progressing towards the goals you have set for yourself. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present here. I am very excited to be a part of Product Manifesto. Please reach out to me at Marilenika. Thanks.
Hi, Hi everyone, I'm Bani Malhotra and I lead personalization at Walmart. I'm a member of the Product Manifesto working group and I'm excited to share our principle number 4. Principle number 4 states that every product manager should set team goals and principles, then bring everyone together with written artifacts, early feedback, and communication. I personally think that the understanding of the importance of aligning stakeholder groups with product teams is crucial for every product and product manager's success. And I say this for 3 main reasons. Reason number 1, building the right stuff. If you go about building your roadmap, strategy, or vision in a silo, you are going to be missing out on both extremely helpful context to enable the right decisions and priorities, but also the opportunity to lean into the expertise of your stakeholders. Reason number 2, it'll allow you to build things fast. Alignment means a lot of hard work. It means you have to work to maintain a working source of truth. You have to make sure decisions are captured and updated. You have to make sure all your artifacts represent the latest and greatest in terms of your development plans. It also means that there are progress check-ins and that there is effective communication so that your stakeholders are abreast of the latest and greatest. But all that means is that you are engendering confidence with your teams. And that is what gives you momentum to move fast. Lastly, reason number 3, it means that you will build things the right way. One of the most important aspects, I believe, of a product manager's role is to make sure that we take people along, that we are able to rally our teams on a common vision, to be able to align on that vision, and then to be able to execute effectively on that vision. And that cannot happen in the absence of good stakeholder management and engagement. I will leave you with a few thoughts that might help you set yourself and your teams up for success when it comes to stakeholder engagement. I have the simple motto of A, B, C, D. A means that you're aligning very diligently and aligning regularly. B means that you're working hard to build trust, and that mostly happens or begins to happen when your stakeholders have a seat at the table. C means you're communicating effectively, and in doing these things, you're actually delivering value and continuous value because you're working on the right things, you're building fast, and you're doing it the right way. Another parting tip is to actually lean on processes that help foster the right kind of collaboration and partnership. I can share from my personal story that when I joined Curology as a head of product, the company had expanded from a few hundred to close to 700 people. And so you can imagine that the stakeholder groups had expanded significantly. And so there was a clear unmet need to accommodate and align across multiple teams. So I introduced the product review process at Curology, which turned out to be a great way to collaborate, great way to align and provide transparency and also build trust because we were making decisions together in a very transparent way. Alignment exercises in some cases, and that could be one of the above that I stated, or some that are set at quarterly or some other regular cadence. Smaller team meetings, one-on-ones are also great ways for you to build relationships and a great rapport with your stakeholders. Really understand, you use that time to understand their goals, their pain points, their thought process. And lastly, easier said than done, but to build empathy, just like we build empathy for our customers, building empathy for our internal stakeholders is also very important so that they feel heard. Thank you, and I hope this was helpful, and talk soon.
Hi, my name is Sparsh, and I am a product leader at Earnin. I'm excited to talk to you about the 5th principle in the Product Manifesto today, which is around embracing a mindset of dynamic prioritization. So let's get right to it. What's the principle? As a PM, embrace a mindset of dynamic prioritization based on a shared understanding of goals and resourcing realities. Why do we need this principle? Your organization is dynamic, and your priorities need to reflect this. I've worked in companies that have spent a lot of time thinking about carefully designed, deliberate strategies on how they're going to play in the market and how they are going to succeed. But even the best written deliberate strategies need to be flexible and be able to respond to changing circumstances. COVID is a perfect example of that. The companies that have succeeded in the COVID pandemic are the ones that have processes in place to effectively change their prioritization and to be able to respond to the changing needs of the market in the most effective way possible. Because ultimately, that's what prioritization is: allocation of scarce resources of the company in the most effective way possible. So how do we put this principle into action? As a PM, first and foremost, it's really important to get a shared understanding across your organization of what users want and what the goals of an organization are. Very often, different teams in a company have different goals. So making sure that everybody has the same baseline understanding is really important as a first step. Secondly, pick a prioritization framework. If you Google this, you will find several acronyms like RICE and Moscow, all of them basically doing the same thing, which is a trade-off between the costs and the benefits of picking an initiative. My tip here is to pick one that works for your unique context and to keep it simple. And then ensuring the entire organization is aligned behind that particular framework for prioritization. Next, it's really important to call out assumptions that you're using while prioritizing different initiatives. And as a product leader, it's even more important to question the assumptions your team is making around potential impact to a particular metric or the cost of building a particular feature. Next, it's really important to call out trade-offs, because prioritization is all about picking certain initiatives over others. So calling out those trade-offs can really help get alignment within the organization. And then finally, we really need to measure our progress towards the initiatives that we've prioritized, make sure that the assumptions that we made are actually true or not, and then using that information to continuously evaluate whether our prioritization still continues to make sense. To conclude, I'll leave you with a real life example. Hopefully, with effective dynamic prioritization, you will avoid yourself to be in a situation that Dilbert finds himself in. Good luck, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of the conference. Take care.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Koo, and I'm currently at Airbnb as a product manager, specifically on the payments team. Today, I'd love to talk to you a bit more about the product manifesto, specifically on principle number 6, which is start by understanding the problem, bring the team together to deliver a resolution, and do a retrospective to avoid the crisis again. So here's a little bit more context. The principle, start by understanding the problem, bring the team together to deliver a resolution, and do a retrospective to avoid the crisis again, seeks to answer the question, how do you handle a crisis? And in general, what we found is that there are 3 categories that problems or crises fall into. They can be business, people, or organizational. And a lot of times, the problems are influenced by all 3 of these areas. But this principle is best used when you're in a product or a business crisis. Now, why is this principle important? Inevitably, things will break and fail through the product creation cycle and through the learning cycle. And product managers are the point of contact for situations and circumstances like these, especially for outside stakeholders and leadership. So strong product managers typically lead through decisive but comprehensive action and are cool under pressure. They're able to think, again, comprehensively, decisively, and understand areas where they may be lacking information and dive into what it takes to get that information or make a call without that information. Ultimately, product management is a team sport, and so relationships matter. That's why it's important to be decisive, but also cool under pressure, because you are the point person between many different teams who are relying on you to help take a solution moving forward. So how do we use this principle? It's important to initially focus on understanding the problem versus being reactive. And so there's a pro tip here, which is to take a step back, resist the urge to respond immediately. Many times when there is an acute crisis happening, your instinct will be to stop the bleeding right away, but oftentimes it's to really understand why is there bleeding, and also how did it start, and who are the right people to help stop the bleeding. And so to continue on to solution phase, you can utilize the 5 whys to get to the source of the issue. And oftentimes the whole point is if you ask 5 whys and you understand the source of the issue, then fixing that issue will fix the root of the problem instead of a symptom of that issue. It's also important to put the crisis into context. How big is this problem? What is the scale or magnitude that this problem is affecting? And also, lastly, who are the right players for the SWAT team to solve this crisis? In product management, it's important to remember that you are not solving this alone. Rather, it's important for you to know who you need to tap and subject matter experts to utilize in order to come together to create the right solution, to generate the right solutions, and then communicate that final solution moving forward to everybody involved. And then lastly, what's important is a follow-up blameless retro. As I said, this is a cycle of learning. These problems will happen many, many times over a career, over a lifetime. And so the most important thing is to learn from the situation. And so this is where a blameless retro comes handy, where everyone's able to take an analytical look at what are the key areas to fix, and then move forward having fully fixed the issue so that it doesn't happen again. So lastly, I'd love to give you a personal example of how I utilize the principle. This happened a couple of years ago. There was a situation where my team was involved with 3 other teams in terms of overlapping scope. There were 3 feature launches that needed to happen that overlapped, and also on 3 form factors, so web, iOS, and mobile, web, iOS, and Android. And so my team was caught in between these nebulous timelines, and we didn't know what was the next step to move forward with. So I called in my SWAT team members and essentially worked with the data scientist, the web engineer, and the mobile engineer to outline a matrix of complexity. And basically, we powwowed through all of the possible permutations of actions we could take that would uphold business goals and also minimally move timelines, since that was a business requirement. And the result was that we came up with an order of operations and a launch plan of attack that we articulated in an email. And this email documented the recommended paths moving forward, the goals that we'd seek to uphold, and the requirements that we maintained. And this was sent out to leadership and all stakeholders. And finally, the result was that it drove clarity for the product teams, the design teams, the engineering teams, and most importantly, leadership, who was able to push the plan moving forward. And the result was complete clarity for all teams, less frustration, and minimal time expenditure wasted away waiting for guidance from all parties. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Know that every situation is very different. This is a general share out of how to use the principle. And thank you so much for listening.
Find the role that you're passionate about solving, and then build at least one core skill while delivering solutions. Why is this principle important? Product management is much more than just launching products or features into the market. Any aspiring PM should start by finding problems that you are passionate about and show that you have the transferable skills that will make you successful in your career as a product manager. In fact, PM is much more than just passing an interview. Getting an interview is about showing those transferable skills through side projects, not by just adding them as keywords in your resume. As an aspiring PM, what is stopping you from creating a product of your own? Remember, it's not about how the product looks or works, but rather the journey that you took to create it and how you tell a story about it, about the skills and how you put them in practice and your experience with creating the product. After you become a successful product manager, your journey continues. to become a very successful PM, you have to now focus on improving your core skills like execution or like strategy. To me, this principle is about really understanding that breaking into PM is much more than just passing the interview. When I was looking to get into my first role as a product manager, I worked on understanding how different roles I had before business school translated into transferable skills for a PM role. I then found a problem that I was really passionate about solving. I was going to help businesses like hospitals to find the key elements and tools they needed in time, not only helping hospitals to save money, but also the patients to make sure that they had everything they needed. And that was key for me to be able to tell a compelling story about how my experience before grad school in data and consulting, my, at the time, current studies in business school, and my future in really being passionate about this project really came together to land my first job as a product manager at Cisco, where after 6 months, I focused on my execution and strategy, and I ended up leading an entire new product from ideation to launching it into the market. If you're thinking about breaking into product management, my advice to you is find a role with problems that you're passionate about solving, and then build at least one core skill while delivering the solution.
Hi, I'm Felix, product manager at Google and founder of the Product Management Mastermind community on LinkedIn. I'm really excited to be here with you at ProductCon discussing Product Manifesto, principle number 8. Set your aspirations, ask for opportunities, set goals with managers or mentors, solicit feedback, and put in the work. Now, this principle addresses a key question that many product managers face, which is how to grow as a product manager. So let's dive in. Set your aspirations. Reflect on those long-term goals, because identifying them and being very clear about them is what's going to help you identify the gaps you need to fill to get there. And once you identify those gaps, you have to ask for opportunities to fill them. I can't tell you how many product managers I've spoken to who want a promotion, but they've never asked for one. You have to ask for the opportunities you want. Next, set goals with managers or mentors, solicit feedback. These steps are very critical because you want to track your progress over time and course correct when necessary. And finally, this isn't just a one-time thing. You have to be ready to put in the work and repeat these steps over and over again throughout your career. To help you apply this principle, I want to share some important factors that affect PM's growth. 1, your internal brand. Conversations that happen for promotion often happen when you're not in the room. And so you need a strong personal brand that speaks for you when you're not there. Be very intentional about the emails you write, the way you leverage your strengths to get the job done, the way you give presentations, and really think about how you communicate your value to the organization and be consistent, because this is what's going to cement that in other people's minds and speak for you when you're not in those rooms. Manager alignment. Sometimes the needs of the team may not match the needs that you have to grow. And that's okay. If you don't have that alignment, maybe it's time to consider pivoting to a different team or organization. Finally, nature versus nurture. Nurture refers to the skills that you yourself can learn and grow. Maybe you use some of product school's resources to learn how to become better at data analytics. But at the same time, the environment in which you're a product manager is critical for your growth. You're going to learn drastically different things at a pre-product market fit product than you would at an organization that's already achieved massive scale and is making incremental improvements over time. So be very intentional about the environment in which you are a PM and choose opportunities that set the right environment for your growth. Now, finally, I want to share a little bit about my personal growth story. It took me over 18 months to earn my first promotion. And I kept my head down. I didn't ask for opportunities, and I got really strong reviews, but I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And so as I talked to more and more PMs, I realized that this was really common. And once I started asking for opportunities, setting goals with my manager, I was able to earn a promotion within the next 3 to 4 months. And so this made me realize my passion for helping other PMs and my passion for getting a breadth of experience. So I started choosing roles that would help me gain different skills so that 1, I could have a diverse and broad PM experience, but 2, so that I could help PMs in varying industries all across the world. So this is how I've applied this principle. I hope it's helpful, and best of luck as you try to grow your product management career.
Hello, ProductCon. Happy and honored to be here with you all today. Here is the principle I will be presenting. Begin with 4 pillars: goal, structure, alignment, measurement, then adapt each to your context. So this is a principle that helps construct product organizations. Now, why is it the principle? Let's go into each of them to explain a bit of the why. So goals. All right, so this is ensuring that you identify the right outcome-oriented approach that's going to move the needle for the business in a customer-centric manner. So figuring out what metrics, what needles that you're trying to move in a way that solves customer problems, in a way that benefits the business, those two are intertwined. Doing that well and doing that ambitiously, it's part art, part science. So figuring out how to adapt that into your context, into your environment, knowing what resonates and knowing what's effective, that's important, very important way to create a product organization. Okay, structure. Empowering people, inspiring people to do their very best. Part of that is assembling a fantastic group of folks, product squads, trifectas, whatever the mechanism that might be that is adapted to your culture and conducive. You got to figure that part out. Part of it is understanding what works well, what's a best practice, the disciplines, working together on a daily basis, rubbing shoulders around engineering, products, product design, UI, UX, comprising that squad and making sure that complementary pieces are fit well together, as well as complementary personalities. So that, again, is a bit of art and science. So doing that effectively and making your adjustments well, it will suit you well when you're creating a product organization. All right, alignment. So if you're going after the highest impact areas in an ideal situation, you are working through an overarching goal, at least for your organization. If you can go even beyond that and make sure that cross organization within the same company are fully aligned towards the same overarching metric, it makes it so much easier to collaborate and drive bigger impact together collectively as a cohesive group. So the better environment that you can build to craft this kind of alignment, the better off your organization will be and the more successful it can be. And that's only good for the company and ultimately your customers. All right, measurement. So the measure of who we are is what we do with what we have. I love this for product people because it encompasses many things. We talk about measurement, sure, but with what we have. So we're, as product people, we need to be very, very strategic and tactical with our finite resources, staffing, etc. So being able to measure that effectively, how well did we do towards the goals that we're meant to achieve, and in the context of with what we have in our environment, what we're positioned for, that's an important way to look at measurement. So when you tie those 4 pillars together, you can structure a really good product organization that only improves over time. I use these 4 pillars on a daily basis when I'm looking to construct our product organization, or where I'm at right now, and we're looking to iterate on all 4 pillars. So we're aligning towards the outcomes that drive the mission and vision of our company. We comprise teams that get together and work even more effectively together, more cohesive, more symbiotic than ever. That brings into alignment, and we measure ourselves not only in how far we reach the goal, but in the context of with what we have, how far do we go with what we have? So thank you very much. It's an honor, pleasure to be here to share this principle out with you. I hope it's helpful. Have an amazing, amazing ProductCon. Cheers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mayank, product manager at Facebook. Prior to this, I worked on Uber, eBay, and some startups. Today, we'll talk about how to set up product teams. This is a very important principle in the product manifesto. But let me talk about why is it so important to have the right team structure. It's like any other thing we do in life. If you don't have the right tool set, you don't have the right skill set, it's most likely that that product, that initiative, that effort of yours will fail. In case of product, that applies as well. Ideas are everywhere. They come from everywhere. If we have to build the right product, we have to set the team for success. We have to have the right perspectives, diversity in the group to make sure that we build the right products, we find the right problems. So, what is the right team structure? This is a very common question I get when I speak to new startups or some emerging new product teams. Well, the right team structure is the one that has diverse perspectives required to build a product. I would highly suggest starting with a starter team, starter product team that we think is a balanced team that we've seen based on what other companies, other products have done. Start with, which includes discovery of problems, starting with user research or data scientist, which includes finding the solution together as a team with PMs, designer, content strategists, engineering, and user researchers, etc. And at the end, obviously, engineering will help you and the designers will help you go execute that. So it's a good starter team to start your product team with. So from my personal experience, primarily with startups and Facebook, there have been different type of experiences. So I'll just share a few anecdotes from there. For startups, the biggest challenge was we didn't have the user researchers. We didn't have the content strategists. Then how do you really set the team for success? Well, one is to acknowledge that you need this. So again, go back to the starter team. And second is, well, either hustle it up, do become the user researcher, go and talk to the user, but do fill the gaps in some form or the other, or get a contractor. And as you scale, you will have this resource. And the second one is for companies like Facebook, etc., or large companies. If you don't have these resources, one is to really call it out and make sure you slow down your product or ask for the resource to get filled up as soon as possible. Unless you have this structure, it's very difficult to build the right products because you won't have the right skill set in the team to find the problems and the solutions. So good luck, give it a shot.